to a time capsuler today who is a fellow American right from North Carolina. His name is Joel. Our time capsulers come from all over the world. If you guys are new to this series, social clubs, activists, schools, families, towns, we cover it all. So we'll be exploring their motivations, the contents behind all the time capsules, and their records. We also want to talk about the future world that their time capsule will be opened in. And today I'll be talking to Joel Leonard from North Carolina. So I'm going to bring him up right now. We're just going to hop into it like we normally do. So here we go. Welcome, Joel. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to be here. I apologize if there's any background noise as we go through this. I'm on my side porch. So, but I wanted to share with you some of the things we've done in rolling out time capsules around the world.
Absolutely. So first off, for the people who don't know you, please just, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit more about you on a personal level before we hop right into your project.
Well, I'm Joel Leonard. I live in Asheboro, North Carolina, and I've been in the supporting manufacturing and the technical trades. My life's mission is to build the next generation of skilled technicians. And so I've gotten involved in the maker movement, which is the grassroots activities of getting more to learn how to make things, learn how to build things, and support the Nation of Makers, which is the national association that a lot of the maker spaces are a part of, and they help champion what we're doing in DC. And there's roughly 3,000, an estimated 3,000 maker spaces around the United States, and there's thousands around the world. And these are our community groups where, again, it could be in a school, could be in a library, but these are community resource centers that enable folks to have access to tools, equipment, and training to be able to make things. And so I've been supporting them. The first one I built or helped build was in Greensboro, North Carolina. And the first year we had 16 new companies formed, 9 patents filed, and over 50 people got jobs.
That's awesome. So you're really into teaching by the sounds of it, and collaborating with other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. All right. So
absolutely.
These time capsules, I saw in your file you have quite a few from all over the globe. So just tell me the story behind that.
Well, back in 2019, I wanted to roll out a national time capsule project, and there really wasn't much appreciation for the idea. A lot of people thought it'd be a waste of time. But when 2020 hit, and of all the calamities and all the disasters and all of the things that people realized, it's worth capturing some of the lessons learned, some of the challenges that we all endured, and some of the life-changing pivots that we all had to do. It's worth passing that on to future generations and capturing that. So, and putting some lessons learned so that the future generations can learn from our mistakes and be able to advance. If they have things that happen similar, they know how to handle it. Yeah. So we created I was doing a weekly support, a rejuvenation call for maker spaces throughout all of last year, starting in March. And we did this, announced it in October or in September, October timeframe, and then held it December 30th. And we had dozens of participants from all over the world participate. And it was really amazing the amount of folks that got involved, the amount of media that came here. I literally right here, I had 4 TV stations film me right here on this porch.
Really?
That's why I wanted to have this discussion right here, because we talked about this right here. So
I love that. And I did see a lot of media attention about your story, so we will get to that in a second. But tell me, how many countries did you pair up with? I know this was an international endeavor.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was about 15. I made you a list for that. We had Afghanistan, Canada, Ireland, Taiwan, the Philippines, New Zealand. I'm going to leave out some, but there's a whole list. You're welcome to add that to the podcast if you want. But it was absolutely. Oh, we had Mexico. I didn't even add them to the list. We had some really amazing folks in Mexico get involved. Um, but it was, and gosh, I forgot South America. We forgot a lot of them. Peru and Brazil and several of those countries got involved. So it's bear with me, everybody. It's 8 months ago that we did this. Okay, we did this December 30th of 2020. So I'm a little fuzzy on some of the specifics, but yeah, it was amazing, and we had some very creative folks, uh, and we had some true characters get involved. I got to tell you about a 14-year-old kid that had no qualms at telling me what to do to run this program. I love it when kids tell adults what to do. I just don't like it when they tell me what to do, but it's another thing. But but anyway, so this kid, I'll tell you real quick. There's a kid that's actually a climatologist. He's only 14 years old. He's getting international acclaim.
Wow.
And when we were telling him that we wanted to do an international time capsule project, and he was at first excited, and then he started thinking about it, and he started researching, and he says, Joel, you do not do time capsules. That's environmental waste. People lose time capsules, and that causes problems with the environment.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, hey, you don't have to bury it. We call this project Bury 2020 to put our pain behind us, but you don't have to bury it. You can put it in plain sight.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm still going to research this further, and I want to have the most environmentally friendly time capsule out there. And he came back with with putting his time capsules in water bottles.
Wow. Okay.
So he recycled water bottles and put all his items in there, and came up with that. He said. So I met some really interesting folks in this process.
Yeah, I love that. I think people are so innovative these days. And I know that because there were so many people collaborating on this project, everyone offered something different. So tell me a little bit about each time capsule. I know it's a lot to cover, just maybe the ones that stick out to you, because I want to talk about, why they're all meaningful.
Well, the one I really enjoyed the most, because we were all in the quarantine, it was really refreshing to see that there was a group that had a school that was still operating, and this was an after-school program in Fayetteville called Robo Dojo. And if you see the picture there, it's on the Bury 2020 website on Google Sites, and there's a bunch of hands in this picture because every kid wrote a letter, and they even wrote one, created a time capsule for the cat that was there. And every one of these kids had such a great time writing their story, what happened in 2020, how it impacted them, what would they recommend others to do. And they put that in a Mount Olive pickle jar. I don't know how, it's like 50-ounce pickle jar. And they've stashed that in a place that they're going to be able to reference it in the future. And it's just a beautiful picture that shows that. So, so that's the one I really, to me, was the coolest thing. And I literally went down and met those folks. And this was the first time after quarantine that I went out, and they were hosting an event, and they were selling cream pies. They were allowing people to put in pies, whipped cream pies, and smash the father the instructor in the face. Well, this little girl, probably 6 years old, was cackling, and it was like the best medicine that I heard in 2020 to hear a young person go, it was just so neat. But there were some of them that put items in in ornaments. Some of them put it in another jars. They put it in boxes. I created, and I'll go through the items that I have here. But again, we have folks in the Philippines that put in items, folks from Kathmandu in Nepal. I mean, this as far
Wow.
as you can get away from North Carolina is 8,000 miles away in Kathmandu. So we had two from Nepal.
Wow.
So it was just amazing. And some of them made it simple, but some of them actually went and made PVC pipes. Some of them used shoe boxes. This one guy made the monolith and put it in the monolith up in Vancouver, Canada.
Wow.
You know that they had this monolith appear in I think it was in New Mexico or Arizona or no Utah, where they built a tribute to that and put their items inside that monolith.
Wow. So your
So
your whole like project is called Bury 2020. But for the people
yeah,
listening, it doesn't mean that you have to bury the time capsules. It's just burying the emotional damage I think we've all gone through and the hard lessons we've had to learn. Right?
exactly. And the father of, and he was the instructor, the father of the group that made the pickle jar time capsule. Uh, he said on this, and we had a international Zoom call when we did
Yeah.
this, and we had folks call in from all over the world to participate in this. Again, I just realized we didn't have New Jersey in the list, but so we had people from all over dialing in, and this guy, he's from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and he literally cried and
Oh,
cried with tears of joy. He says, "You do not know the suffering that my family and my kids that I teach have endured. And when my son, who's normally a happy-go-lucky kid, was sad and depressed, he said that this was the first time that he smiled in a long time. He took 2020 out of his consciousness and threw it away and was able to move forward.
yeah.
So this is a cathartic experience when you emotionally write down what you've endured and then put it to paper and then bury it, throw it away. It does release. It's a cathartic experience, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that still need to do that because 2021. I mean, with the latest events that are happening
Yeah.
now, where we're
Yeah.
reliving the exodus of Vietnam in real time going on in Afghanistan. You know, there's a lot of pain being caused in 2021. And it would be really good to write these things down and capture it and pass it on to future generations.
Yeah. It definitely seems like a therapeutic thing to do as well when we've all gone through something like this. And it's very, there's something to be said for the fact that you're able to connect all different types of people, not just Americans, but all over the globe, because this was such a universal issue. And we all went through the same thing,
Yeah,
regardless of, the level that you experienced it.
absolutely. And there was so much camaraderie and friendships being
Yeah.
created out of this. Some of the folks that participated are now, in fact, there was a lady that supported the Afghani folks that got me the Afghani time capsule.
Wow.
She's now running some fundraisers for the orphans that are being created there in Afghanistan. And there's a lot of people that were on that project that are in the process of sharing and giving to that. So there is really meaningful experience that we had with this. And again, it just because 2020 is over doesn't mean that this has to stop. I've
Yeah.
done another one of these for an after school program, or as actually a summer camp here in High Point, North Carolina. And it was so cute to see those kids write up the letter to their future self talking about what they experienced. And they wrote on top, "Dear me."
I love that. I love that. When I was younger, actually growing up, I actually did a time capsule as well, and I wrote a future letter to myself. So it's cool that I'm now learning more about time capsules and that everyone is doing them in their own way. And I think those kids will definitely benefit from being able to read a letter from their past self to their future self.
Yeah, one of the other cool things with this is we had a lot of this was physical, but we had some digital time capsules too. And there was a class out of DC that got involved. The British, they actually a lot of people from the UK come over to the United States and go to school in DC, and these are young kids, and they're actually created their own email that will be sent to them when they graduate high school.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
don't know how they did it technically, but they said that they were able to store it in a way and put a scheduling device to it that they will get it when they graduate high school, what they experienced in 2020.
Wow. Yeah, I think the technology is, we have a lot of really great technology. I don't think people realize how much we're able to accomplish. But I love the idea of digital time capsules as well. But I really love the idea of you guys not burying your time capsules and keeping them hidden in plain sight, because 80 to 90% of physical time capsules, they're lost, they're stolen, or they're forgotten about. So it is a great idea, but it's not always executed properly. So I love the way that you guys have done it.
Well, thank you. And yeah, you don't have to have a box. You can use a whelk and
Yeah, for people listening,
literally
shell.
you can put it in a shell and put a jump drive in there and put it in plain sight, and nobody even knows it's there. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, nature's got its own time capsules too. This is a petrified rock
Wow.
of used to be a tree. So, you know, it's really cool that we start building our own and start passing. I really do. Every time they do a news brief about a time capsule that was found in a building, it's just really fascinating to see what they passed on and what
Yeah.
did they deem important. And I just think now I'm hooked on it, and because it is for kids, it's a great exercise for engineering
Yeah.
because there's so many decisions that have to be made. What are you gonna build? How are you gonna build it? How are you gonna store it? How do you make sure that the future doesn't lose it?
Yep.
And then also, how do you make sure the future doesn't blow it up because they think it's a bomb?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's and then what do you put inside of it? So there's so many. It really is a project-based education. You've got engineering, social, history, all these different things that can be brought into this. That a schools need to make this as a regular part of their activities,
Yeah.
is to get kids to think about this. And again, writing a letter to yourself and then also to your grandkids, it gets you thinking and gets you processing things in a way that you just don't normally think. And again, it might take away some of the stress that we're having to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. I love that. I do agree. I think schools should do them either once a year. I think that'd be a better replacement than yearbooks, honestly, just having people do their own personal time capsules, because I think that that's the best way to capture your individual experience. But, you know, hopefully more schools will do them, and hopefully your after-school program will take off. And I love that you have gotten so much media interest from what you've done. So tell me a little bit about the people that have covered you and and the coverage that you've received so far.
Well, when we did this, we started several months in advance, and we put this together, and we even we got so many people involved. And my wife is actually a PR expert. She actually used to work for the Department of Transportation, so she knows all the TV outlets. And so all I do is call them up and tell them what I'm doing, and boom, they show up because this was so unique. And if you Google North Carolina man buries 2020,
Yeah.
there's so many other TV stations around the country carried the CBS coverage, the NBC, the Fox, the ABC. It was everywhere, and it got picked up. There were were literally 4 TV stations right here interviewing me throughout those couple of weeks as we were doing it. And we actually buried one in my garden. I was thinking about going and digging it up and show you the jar that we put in. We put a heart-shaped jar and put a jump drive inside of it, and it's out there underneath the weeds now in my garden. So,
wow. Wow. And what's on that jump drive?
Well, I put links to various news events. I put a brochure. Oh, one of the other cool time capsules I almost forgot to mention, and I want to make sure that if you do an edit of this, make sure you do this. There was a kid in Anna, Texas, at Anna High School, which is outside of Dallas near Fort Worth, who learned how to make his own box off a laser engraver. And not only did a laser engraver, he put an aperture or iris to where you open it and close it. And they put all the materials for their time capsule in this box. He learned how to do this with this project. And when he shared with us this activity, there was a guy that used to work at NASA on the phone, and he was telling him the importance of apertures and using that type technology in NASA and satellites and other things, that he was trying to connect him to get him an internship at NASA.
Wow.
So and his colleagues, now he did that part, and then his other students in that class, there was a teacher that took this on and worked with us on this. Her name is Emily Burke, and in Anna High School in Anna, Texas, and she had them make brochures, how to survive a pandemic, how to the time capsule brochure. I mean, there was so many cool little tidbits that you got a little trifold brochure on how to survive it.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really clever, the way that they did that. So,
yeah, definitely. I think there's been a lot of innovation this past year, and this is certainly something that falls under that realm. So, like you said before, a lot of time capsules that, we bury, it can be, bad for the environment, but then it can also be a little bit disorganized. So tell me, you said you were hiding a lot in plain sight. Yeah, walk me through the time capsules that you have on your table. So for the listeners, he's holding up
okay, so as I said, I got a buffet of time capsules behind me here, and I'm going to showcase each one of those to everybody.
And Joel,
so this is the Illuminati or the pyramid. Excuse me? You've kind of fading out on me, so I'm just going to explain this. So this is the pyramid that you see on the back of the dollar bill. This was a 12-hour 3D print that a colleague of mine, this kid that I got a job in machining, did this for me for free. And so you can put items inside of here and store it in plain sight. Nobody knows. So it's really a neat little time capsule. And as you can see, I've got blinking lights inside of it. So it's really a cool little project. So the other thing that we did is, again, maps and globes, people are so used to using their phones, they don't pay attention to maps and globes anymore. So I created a time capsule that I put everything inside of the globe.
Wow.
So you can put a jump drive in there and nobody even knows it's there. You can use wipes was quite important in 2020. Well, you can put items in the wipe container and store it on a shelf, and boom, you got it. I just bought a truck, and this company sent me a bunch of cookies. So I'm going to take this cookie tin and put items in there, like, now this was, I thought was very important to pass on, is because I don't know about you, but I've been adding all different kinds of additional supplements to my diet so that I won't get COVID. So I thought it was important that we make a time capsule and include zinc, vitamin B12, vitamin D, all of that into the time capsule, so that the next generation, if they're dealing with this, they know that that's a proven way of Even Donald Trump was taking vitamin D. So, and he didn't really believe there was one at one point. So anyway, it's important that we take this and prevent it. So the other thing I did was, this is a mask. Now this is, you can tell I'm not exactly the most beautiful person in the world. And this is the first time that I ever had been asked by a fashion designer to be a model. So the only time I ever been a model was when they cover up my face. So I have this wolf mask, and in the middle of a pandemic, when people laugh at you and have fun, having a wolf mask, and I can breathe better. I got better seal, and this is just a great icebreaker that get people thinking, hey, it's okay. You don't have to look so sterile and so obscure with all these other masks. This one actually works better than traditional masks do. And wow. I can breathe and you can hear me quite well. So I'm going to put this in a time capsule when I'm done with it. Right now, we got to use it. The other thing that I have is, I think it's important. I put my freezer is technically a time capsule. I've got heirloom seeds that you can't normally get. I don't know if you ever heard of a type of vegetable called a cushaw. You know what a cushaw is?
No.
It's like a cross between a squash. It's a big gourd type thing. It's huge. I mean, they can grow 35 pounds. Wow. And it's like a cross between a gourd and a pumpkin, or a squash and a pumpkin. And it's a big item. So we've got seeds in here. I've also got giant sunflower seeds from Rhode Island that a friend of mine sent me. I've got in our freezer. So I've got those. My freezer is technically a time capsule. And then, this is the number one necessity. Everybody, when they did polls about 2020, what to put in a time capsule, everybody suggested you need to hang on to this because you never know when you might need it. And so those were, and again, I got another cookie tin here. And by the way, if you want to have a permanent remembrance of your friends and family, this is a great way of doing this. I've got a laser engraver now, and these are permanent. If you got a picture, it may fade or may get damaged. Well, this is burnt into the wood. So this is perfect preservative in order to capture some of the people that you love and you want to maintain. You can put this in there. So this is my wife who's been dealing with breast cancer, and her cousin. So I've got her. I don't know how well you can see that, but and then this is a coaster of the local baseball team. They call them the Copperheads. And so, and this is the time that we were actually melting metal. It's a whole collage here, and it's just telling a story with all these pictures. So laser engraving. See, now you can't see it. Over behind me is my pivot. I actually bought a 17-foot trailer with $60,000 worth of equipment. I got my own CNC, my own lasers, my own 3D printers, and I'm going around to rural and underserved communities and teaching them time capsules, teaching them how to do CNCs, and teaching them where they can actually make money in the future. Wow. And so also bought a new truck, and I think you can probably see it. You can really see the truck. But yeah, I mean, so that's my pivot from COVID is I can't do what I used to do. So now that I go out, I have my own mobile maker space or community workshop in my on wheels. And so this is, let me pull this up. This is something really neat. And this could be a time capsule. In fact, I was thinking about it. Now, I don't want to sound morbid. Hopefully it'll be a long time from now. But I was thinking about putting my ashes in this giant hammer at some point and letting people see this 50-pound hammer. We've had over 19,000 people pick up to see how this works. And
Wow. So explain this.
Do what?
What is this exactly?
Well, it's it's scrap metal that from a machine shop. This is a former rotor that wasn't made right, so they were throwing it away at this machine shop. It was a rotor for a helicopter. So I pieced this together, and if you want kids to start working with tools, you got to make tools exciting. So we added 1,000 LEDs to it, and challenge kids. We tell people it's the Thorminator, half Thor, half Terminator, and we tell people that pick it up, and so put down your cell phones and pick up a tool.
Wow, we love that.
So, and again, other items you could put in there. You could put in these face shields that were 3D printed. Oh, one of the things that I wanted to mention, he got involved in all this, is because last year was when we went from making 3D printed Yoda heads to making face shields and making all these items that kept people alive. Yeah. There's an estimated at least 40,000 more people are living now because of the maker community stepped up and made all these items that were homemade and kept them in production. These were people that were not getting paid. These were people that did this on their own.
Volunteer.
So that's why we felt like the maker community needed to preserve what they did, because this was like Dunkirk. If you saw that movie and know about history, when the maritime, all the different commercial ships and all the different people that had ships went to across the English Channel and saved the soldiers that were being massacred by Germany in World War I. They were picked up by all these citizen sailors, and so or mariners. And so this is the same thing. We had this the factories weren't, or the government wasn't prepared. The factories were not producing. We couldn't import all that we needed. So somebody needed to step up. So these volunteers stepped up and started producing all these different items to save people. So that's why we needed to pass that on to the future, so that doesn't get lost in history, that there were thousands, at least there was one number of over 48,000 people that stepped up to make things. And I'm sure it's probably more than that.
Wow. I love that they were 3D printed too. It just shows the level of technology that we have these days. So I have to ask, I mean, through all of your, that's incredible. With all of the research that you've done with time capsules, do you think they're a useful way of preserving history?
Absolutely. I mean, again, if we are orphans, we are cultural orphans. We do not know our past. We do not know past our grandparents, and we know very limited about them because most of them pass on before we're too much old enough to fully understand what they had to endure and how they survived and how they advanced themselves. And some of them don't necessarily share it all. So it's so important. I really do think we should make this a part of our ritual for Thanksgiving, that we make time capsules and do videotapes so that in the future generations will know about their great, 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 great grandfather by seeing a videotape of them.
Exactly. I totally agree. I think it'd be so cool to meet my friends and, well, my family that I've never met before, because you're right. I really only knew I don't even think I met my great grandma. So, I mean, you're definitely right. There is a huge need for this in the world.
Well, and the other thing is, my parents and grandparents were farmers. Wow. And then when we ran out of food supply, I've got a little garden back here. Boy, I have a devil of a time trying to grow anything. If I knew what their little tricks that they did, it would have been very handy. So those are lessons. And again, we are not passing on. We got generations of kids up there that want to be YouTube stars or not learning how to be technicians. We got companies that can't find maintenance personnel, CNC operators. and all these other folks, but we got all these kids that can sing and dance, and we got really and too many people that can shoot a 3-pointer, and they can't run a plant. They can't they can't do things that our society really needs them to do. So we need these time capsules could be great ways of showing the importance of these things that we don't glorify at the level they need to be.
Yeah, great point. And I love what you said earlier too about encouraging the kids to put down their phones and make something. I think that's the best thing to do nowadays. And you're right. I mean, at a certain point, I know we all looked at each other in quarantine and said, shit, what if the grocery stores run out of food? We don't know how to really grow anything. So it's interesting that you bring up the farmers as well. And just the lessons that we have learned. I know we were in such a different time growing up in the age of, TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all of these social media platforms. And it is very different. I can't imagine how you feel too. You didn't even have a smartphone when you were younger.
That's right. I mean, I'm an immigrant to technology. You're a native. You was born when you were around. So anyway, it is an issue, but we have to embrace other things. We got so much technology that's not being passed on. And again, time capsules is a great way of doing this. And again, imagine you walk into well, let me just state this. We either pass it on or we drop it on them. Which would you rather have?
Yeah.
The kids, if they don't have somebody to teach them, they're not going to learn. And so I even had a kid ask me, he says, how much does a 50-pound hammer weigh? They do ask stupid questions. And he wasn't talking about English currency. So we've got to really work with these kids because they just don't know. And unless we tell them and work with them, they won't find out. I mean, I've been teaching kids how to read maps. And that's another good thing to put in a time capsule is put in a map. Because you never know if the satellites, if China gets mad at us and they shoot down our satellites, we're not going to have GPS. And, and also for this program, I brought out a relic that's been in my family for 60 years or so. This is a old style Spanish version of a rifle. Wow. And it's, back then, this was like a major tool to keep and defend yourself. So it's important, again, that we pay homage to some of the things of the past and learn about what other cultures have done and how they did things. Yeah. Who knows? I might need this in the future to whop somebody on the head.
You never know. It's always good to be prepared.
Yeah. So, and again, I've got a cooler here. I've got a picnic basket. I've got boxes. I really came stock for you to make sure. And then even duct tape. You got to have duct tape in a time capsule. So.
And when you put all these physical items into your time capsule, how are you ensuring that, they're not rotting away? Because I know physical rot and data rot as well with all the jump drives. It's a huge enemy to time capsules.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you're putting it in the ground, you got bigger issues. If it's in a climate-controlled environment, it's not as big a problem.
Yeah.
I do have to tell you, I did have some folks that I don't think they did it, but they came up with the idea of actually putting some. They did they found the rust. They were going to make a anchor, and they were going to drop a time capsule in the bottom of a lake. And figured out that it would actually take about 30 years to rust that component that was hooked on the wire that was connected to the time capsule. And they would actually open up and it could send a signal to the satellites and send an email to somebody that their time capsule's been deployed and send it to the local officials.
I've never heard of anything like that.
I don't think they did, but somebody went to a lot of thought. You never heard that yet?
No.
So anyway, it's really, it was just an interesting process doing this on an international level. We had so many people think this through. And again, I encourage folks to do it every year. I mean, do it. Thanksgiving, I think, should be the time after you gorged yourself. You got time to reflect and think about what would you really grateful for, and what would you like to pass on and learn to do, and again, to capture those moments that you want to capture and pass it on to a future generation, and then maybe several years from now you host an event and open them up.
Yeah, exactly. I love that because even with Thanksgiving, especially, you are with your family that you haven't seen maybe in a few weeks, since a lot of people get together that live in other states, and it's just a beautiful time. You all come together, and I think just making that video, you not only will have yourself talking about how grateful you are, but you'll have the people behind you in your life that who knows may not be there at the next Thanksgiving, and now you have this wonderful video of you guys all talking and
and you could open them up all the Uncle Charlie's time capsules on when he passes at his funeral. Exactly. That would be an interesting reveal as some of his thoughts and some of the things that he endured that you probably don't know.
Exactly. My grandma made a time capsule, and I found out a lot about her that never came up in conversation. So I totally agree. I think that it's a wonderful way to set a reunion in the future for, special celebration, whether it's an anniversary or just celebrating someone's birthday. I know our last guest on the time capsule, Steve, wonderful. He made a time capsule that will be opened on his 100th birthday. So even if he doesn't make it, it'll be opened in his honor for his 100th birthday.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can send an email to yourself 100 years from now.
Yeah, I have to look more into that because that is crazy. But I definitely think these time capsules are something we should all be doing. And I have to ask, because I didn't think about hiding it in plain sight, even the way you did it in the conch shell and the other things that you showed me. How do you remember that you have a time capsule in there? How do you remember your project and how to remind yourself that, you set that opening date and whether to take it out?
Well, and I just realized I've been sitting in front of a time capsule the whole time. This is our cat house, our AKA dog house, but it's for our cats. I can put a time capsule in here, and if I put something up here to remind me that open in 2029 or whenever, I'll remind myself.
Yeah.
But, you can put little reminders on a refrigerator or do something like that. Or again, send yourself an email that you got a time capsule to open up.
Right. and you guys, when you submitted it to the International Time Capsule Society, it doesn't have an opening date. So talk to me about that.
Well, we wanted to make sure that folks have their own options as to what they wanted to do and when they wanted to open it up. These were really just personal things. This wasn't like a company or a city function. This was something that people do on their own. And heck, if I needed toilet paper, I want to get it. So
that's wonderful. That's amazing. Well, although you guys don't have those individual opening dates, let's talk about the future of time capsules. Where do you think it's going to be? And I know it's a huge topic, but it seems like you're an expert in the field. So what's your opinion?
Well, I do think that videotaping and putting in things in jump drives is definitely, and again, videotaping your physical things of this and incorporating all these links to various pictures and articles and other things of that time period, I think is quite constructive. And I do think that we need to also send these to museums and other places so that there is a study and things are passed on. But I mean, as far as how they're going to be able to access these things, who knows? In 50 years, you might be able to put your jump drive in an attachment that hooks up to your ear and then to go straight to your brain. Who knows? I'm being silly, but technology, I mean, it keeps shrinking and getting more advanced. Who knows how things are going to advance in the future? And again, some of these old school lessons still need to be passed on, and because we may need to count on them. And I do think that this serves such a valuable process to keep our society successful.
Yeah.
Again, we had a historic moment this week. Who would have ever thought that we would repeat Saigon?
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought that? And the exact same thing happened that happened, was it 40 years ago? So it's really a shame that if we don't learn from the past, we will continue to repeat what happened in the past. And so we've got to teach people some of these lessons. And
Yeah.
some of the things that happened with COVID, they happened in 1920.
Yeah.
People but didn't believe it. People didn't take it seriously. People were ridiculed for doing all these things. Same thing, and all these freedoms that everybody talks about having. There's no freedom in any constitution that allows you to harm somebody else. So I really do think that we need to educate our populace in the future and get them up to speed. And the only way we can do it is passing on lessons. And it may not come from that generation. It may have to come from their great grandfather
Yeah.
that's on a video that they were able to pull out of a jump drive.
Yeah. I love it. I agree completely. And I know this was a bit of an idea that you said people in 2019 didn't take seriously, but then 2020 rolled around and people started to take it seriously. So what do you have, any advice for anyone who's listening right now who might want to make a time capsule, who maybe, their friends, their family, their community didn't take them seriously, but they really do want to do it?
Just do it. Just do it. Do it on your own, and then let people see it. And again, if you need help, reach out to me. You can go to Barry 2020 on Google Sites and find me, or makesboroughUSA.com, and I'll coach you. I love doing this, and I'm honored that the International Time Capsule Society invited you to interview me for today. And this has been a very powerful exercise. I really do think that if we're going to preserve and maintain and grow our society, we got to pass on these lessons. And the time capsule is just one other vehicle.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think that you've highlighted, if anything, that you don't need to, purchase a military grade aluminum, material to make a time capsule, or you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars. You can use everyday items in your house and kind of make do with what you have. Like a conch shell. That's probably my favorite thing that I've seen. I would love to write a future letter to myself, put it in a conch shell, put it in my room. No one would know really what's in it except for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Joel, for everything. It's been a wonderful conversation. Is there anything else you want to say before we have to say goodbye?
Just thank you so much. I appreciate what you're doing. I think it's wonderful, and keep it up. And if you'd like to talk to some of the folks that were participated in my past events, I'm more than happy to share it. The kid down in, I call him a kid, but he's an adult. The teacher down in Fayetteville, and some of the others, and again, the teacher down in Anna, Texas, that was a class project, and it changed some lives. That kid that learned how to do the laser and made the iris and the aperture, I mean, that was a game-changing skill, and he was evidently somebody that doesn't normally get excited about stuff. He got super excited about making that.
No, I love that. I would absolutely love to talk to them, bring them on board. There's so many countries and so many people that were involved. So connect me with whoever, and I'd love to invite them.
I'll be sending you some emails and some introductions, and I hope, and if they need me on there to get past their nerves, I'd love to do it. Now, this kid, the climatologist, you got to interview him. He's a character, and he'll tell you what kind of processes you're doing that he thinks is wrong. But
well, we're always open to criticism, but really the most
he was a little blunt, but I tell you, he's a smart kid, and I admire the heck out of him. So yeah, this whole thing, again, when you're alone and watching TV and watching Perry Mason for the 900th time, it's nice to connect with other folks. And this, even though we did it virtually, it was really special.
Yeah. No, I always thought, time capsules, building them is about collaboration. Opening them and sharing them is about collaboration. So it's a great great activity to do with anyone. And you've showed how, beautiful it can be across all state lines, country lines, internationally. You guys have all come together, and I think it's been a really wonderful project.
Yeah, and if the International Time Capsule Society wants to do a Thanksgiving activity, I would love.
Yeah.
We need to make it a holiday. We need to say 3 o'clock Eastern Time is the International Time Capsule Development, and get everybody after they gorge themselves on Eastern. Maybe do it and maybe do it at 5 or 6 o'clock. I don't know, but we can make it into a holiday event and get people to make these. I know there would be an interest. I know there would.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that we'll look into that and we'll plan something big. But Joel, thank you so much for coming on board. It's been a pleasure, and we will be in contact. Look out for the email I'll send you with the links that we post, and we'll bring everyone else aboard if they want to come on. I'd love to talk to them. So I will see you soon, and we will be in contact. Thanks, Joel. I think he froze a little bit at the end, but thank you so much, Joel Leonard, for you guys that have tuned in. Maybe you just joined. The project that he started was called Berry 2020. It's been covered by a variety of media outlets, and you can find it on Google if you look him up. We'll be linking everything down below. But again, thanks so much for joining in. We will have another guest